Alright, so the newly released Alien Romulus is here, and as we take a look at the Alien franchise as a whole, it's got some big hits, especially from the early days, but then it got some stinkers and mostly horrible. But then all the other later entries that came out back in the 2010s, it was great as well, including with this. And so this will be my official ranking of all the Alien films, and to talk about my opinion of why it's there, and of course it should leave it to your own opinion, and this is my ranking. But so if you're new here, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so don't miss out on any future bits. But now let's get into this ranking. Coming at last place at number 7 is Alien Resurrection, and for what I can tell you, this was a stale, horrible, not good storyline, especially from the characters, from the plot to the way that they handle Ripley, is especially as a clone, and from the way that she was interacting with the characters on board, which is the crew members. I feel like she wasn't even herself. But even the Winona Ryder in this film, which I pretty much enjoyed, and I loved her and Ripley's chemistry, I thought that rocked on sweet. But even with the crew members that were on board, I did not give a damn about any of them. In fact, they included basketball, and it didn't even feel like an alien film. I didn't even feel terrified and worried for these characters because of how ridiculous that they were on screen. But there were some good moments, especially involving our characters being underwater and all that good alien action stuff. But even with some unexpected reveals that happened towards the end involving Ripley, and just with the overall mess that this movie made, I feel like they brought in a director that knows nothing about the Alien franchise and decided to do whatever the heck that they want with it. It made it even worse, especially after the third Alien film. I felt like that this was a complete downfall from the franchise, and I feel like Ripley is better than this, but overall it's just a horrible film. And now next up is Alien 3, which I think this really took a downgrade to what would have been a solid but definitely not good film. Even after Aliens, after what happened to Ripley at the end of the second film, and for which this falls up at, I feel like, man, the practical effects in here did not even feel that special. And the fact that they brought in David Fincher, that this was his first movie that he ever directed, and of course that we know him from the Social Network, and that's what we're mostly known for, and other good stuff. But even for what he did with his vision, I feel like this wasn't there. And the fact that they did one character dirty, and that was with Newt, and from the way that they killed her off screen and not having her full character arc, especially as she had great chemistry with Ripley in the second film. And I feel like of the way that they did her character like that, especially at the start of the film, it was heartbreaking in my opinion. But even with the dialogue, it felt so cringe, and so especially with the rest of the characters, they all acted dumb and stuff corny lines or something like that. But even towards the third act, Ripley still kicks ass, trying to fight the alien, the xenomorph, and even with the alien that goes on its killing spree, killing a bunch of people. And I definitely liked the action. I thought it was such a solid storyline. But even towards we all know what happened to Ripley at the end of that film that led into Alien Resurrection, the worst film in the franchise. But even with Alien 3, which I found to be just a solid, not good watch, I think it's just weak. And now, next up is Prometheus, and I think this is a prequel, and that I said before, the first Alien film, and this is with a bunch of crew members that are investigating what led into this franchise that we all know and love, what was really going on in terms of studying alien species, especially with Michael Fassbender playing a robot. I feel like he crushed the role so much, and had a Charlize Theron and Idris Elba. And I feel like just with the development of the alien, or where it came from, but it was still I don't know if it was an underwhelming storyline in my opinion, but it definitely led into more things that it would happen farther down the road. It explains so much before the first Alien, but I feel like it was a good watch to me, and this brought back Ridley Scott back to the screen, back to this franchise, and I feel like he did a perfectly good job at establishing what goes on, especially before the first Alien and with this franchise. And now, next up on the list is Alien Covenant, and I feel like this was one of the more good entries that Ridley Scott brought, and this was like the last entry, the last Alien movie that we got back in 2017 before Romulus, which I'm going to get to in a bit with this ranking, but this was the sequel to the last movie, Prometheus, and the way that it sets up layers of how it sets up the franchise, and this is like a prequel, like I said before, anything that we ever knew in this franchise. But I feel like I really enjoyed the heck out of this movie, especially with Michael Fassbender playing two roles at the same time with a robot and his normal self, and even with the kills and the thrills that go down in this movie, they feel completely epic. Every time like a person gets killed on screen, it really leaves me in shock of the way that it happened that way, and especially with the xenomorph and just with the aliens that go wild, trying to go after these crew members and trying to like investigate like a virus, and like, you know, like they're out like on the field, and it just gets more insane from there, especially what happened like towards the third act and towards the final minutes of the movie. And oh my gosh, it truly feels like an Alien film inside and out, and like it just like bring back the vibes of the earlier entries, in which the later entries like did not do. But I feel like this felt more epic than any other entry. Plus, it really set the tone for the rest of the franchise, especially with this being a prequel. Next up on the list is Aliens, and this is the film from James Cameron, and from what we know from his amazing work and his amazing filmography. And I gotta say that this was a great follow-up to the original Alien, but with this film, we find Ripley like in space, like in her pod after she defeated the alien, but now like she has more to deal with, as like she now has to kill like a bunch of aliens, and they have this like crew alongside her, and you have a Newt who is introduced in this franchise, and even with her character arc that did not last long, but even with the chemistry between Ripley and Newt, they felt like a mother-daughter like ensemble together on screen, which was totally epic. And even with Newt, that like started out as like an orphan who like lost her parents, and now trying to connect with Ripley, it really seemed like a mother figure to her. And I loved everything about the sequel, especially with Bill Paxton, who delivers his great one-liners. He just like stole every scene, and every moment felt very, very good. I mean, James Cameron brought it all with the action to the thrills and the scariness and the practical effects. And oh my gosh, like it just goes down like crazy. And I loved what happened towards the end. But even for what happens like in the later films, it totally disappointed me. But I feel like that this was the perfect sequel, and that's how you do a follow-up. And now, next up on the list is Alien Romulus, and this is the newly released film that is in theaters. And from my thoughts on it, I thought this was the best Alien film, and I enjoyed the heck out of this film, especially what director Fede Alvarez did with his directorial style and his vision for what he wanted to adapt with this franchise. It goes back to the roots, to the lore of what the franchise came to be, especially with the crew members that are on the Romulus space station, and learning about what's really going on, especially with the alien creatures that are after our main characters, and feeling terrified for them, and especially with the practical effects and the sound design. It is really incredible. Like, especially as I saw this in IMAX. I mentioned before in my review, but they really bring it all. It's especially with the xenomorph and with the face huggers, and even with the kills and the intense moments of every time something bad happens to our main characters. It just feels epic. But even though it has a few key issues, even for what goes down towards the end of the movie with the third act, it just, I don't know, it felt underwhelming to me. But even with the fact like that they use like this like, you know, future character that Rain, you know, fights towards the third act, and also the end of the movie, it perfectly pays a homage to the original Alien of the earlier entries of the Alien franchise. Anyway, like I enjoyed this film. I thought this was a brilliant comeback to the Alien franchise, and I thought this was a really great film but with only a minor few key issues, but it was still a pretty enjoyable film. But coming in at number 1 on this list, and I think the best Alien film in this franchise is the original Alien from 1979, and this is the film for where it all began, for the aliens, for the xenomorph, and how they made it so intense for this to be an enjoyable film, especially for what Ridley Scott brought to this film. It was so damn epic, especially of introducing a Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, as one of the many crew members that discover an alien species on the ship, as they send a crew member out and they notice an alien coming out of him. And even with the practical effects of the way that they use it, it's basically out of this world, and they are trying to do everything that they can to kill this alien and to basically blow up their spaceship. The space station, and just with the way that they handle everything, I mean, this is like a classic filmmaking. This is classic cinema, and even towards the third act and also the final hour of the movie, it totally rocks. Especially as it is watched like many times with Ripley in the spacesuit trying to kill that alien once it's stuck onto the ship, but it just totally feels epic. I just love the visual effects and its sound design of what everything was brought here, and this was a really great way to start up this franchise and for how it came to be. But I think this is the one that started it off, and it's always going to be at the top. And so there you have it. This is my ranking of all of the Alien films, and even though that this franchise does have some stinkers, but it does have some really good ones, especially with the first 2 Alien films, which I will always adore. I mean, Ridley Scott and James Cameron definitely both crush it at both films, but I definitely enjoy Romulus for what that brought, and I can't believe that we're back into this Alien franchise, and this was fun. And I hope that we got more something like this in the near future as well. But that's going to do it for this video, which is let me know in the comments below. And what is your ranking of all of the Alien films? Let me know it in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe and turn on notification bell for future videos. You also follow all my social medias, all which are linked down below, including my Patreon. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.